Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. My warmest welcome to all foreign ambassadors in the audience, more than 30 according to my records. Welcome also to the Spanish former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Oreja. Welcome also to the several members of Congress that are with us today. And of course, thank you especially to the Turkish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu, our guest today. Thank you very much. Thanks also to our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Alfonso Dastis. It's a great honor for the Elcano Institute to have both Ministers of Foreign Affairs willing to share with us a few minutes today. Mr. Çavuşoğlu speaks German, Japanese, and English. Congratulations, Minister, this is really an accomplishment. So later you can address him questions in Japanese if you want. But don't worry, he's going to speak in English. We have automatic translation, Spanish and English.
La relevancia estratégica de Turquía, tanto desde una perspectiva española como europea, viene determinada por diversos factores. En primer lugar, su condición de país candidato a la Unión y de Estado miembro de la OTAN. En segundo lugar, por el peso económico de nuestros flujos comerciales y financieros y por el enorme potencial de la unión aduanera con la Unión Europea. A todo ello se une también su situación geográfica y su papel como interlocutor privilegiado en una región considerada prioritaria para la acción exterior española. No cabe duda que una solución duradera del conflicto en Siria y de la inestabilidad en Irak pasa por una participación activa y constructiva del Gobierno de Ankara. España siempre se ha mostrado partidaria de la perspectiva europea de Turquía, vinculada, como todo proceso de adhesión, al cumplimiento de los criterios de Copenhague, y aboga por seguir reforzando, y no por destruir, los lazos que vinculan a Turquía con la Unión Europea. Por ello, España se ha mostrado partidaria de mantener siempre abiertos los canales de comunicación con Turquía y de seguir avanzando, pese a ciertas dificultades, en la senda iniciada desde 1963 con la firma del Acuerdo de Asociación con la entonces Comunidad Económica Europea. Apoyamos también la propuesta para ampliar el alcance de las relaciones comerciales preferenciales y para modernizar la unión aduanera. Ello nos permitirá dotarnos de más y mejores instrumentos que favorezcan la prosperidad y el crecimiento económico. Como ustedes saben, la inmigración irregular supone uno de los grandes retos a los que se enfrenta la Unión en la actualidad. En este sentido, el acuerdo migratorio alcanzado con Turquía el pasado mes de marzo constituye un claro ejemplo de cómo la coordinación y el esfuerzo conjunto han conseguido hacer frente a una crisis migratoria sin precedentes en el continente europeo desde la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Permítame en este punto subrayar los dos propósitos fundamentales que inspiraron este acuerdo: evitar la pérdida de vidas humanas en el mar e impedir el lucrativo negocio de las mafias. Desde la firma de la declaración de 18 de marzo del año pasado, y a pesar de obstáculos que todavía persisten, el número de llegadas irregulares se ha reducido en más de un 90%. El mundo atraviesa un momento complejo, marcado por la incertidumbre y los desafíos, pero como ocurre siempre en coyunturas difíciles, también por la aparición de nuevas oportunidades. España y Turquía pueden y deben unir fuerzas en los foros internacionales para defender los valores compartidos, como ya hicimos con el proyecto de la Alianza de Civilizaciones. El cambio climático, la crisis migratoria el terrorismo internacional o la guerra en Siria e Irak constituyen hoy algunos ejemplos de cómo la amistad que nos une puede favorecer sinergias positivas más allá de la mera relación bilateral. Perdonen ustedes estas reflexiones, porque yo a lo que había venido de verdad aquí, según el guión establecido por el Cano, era a presentar a mi amigo Mevlüt. El ministro Çavuşoğlu tiene una amplia experiencia profesional. Permítame destacar que ha sido el primer parlamentario turco en desempeñar el cargo de presidente de la Asamblea Parlamentaria del Consejo de Europa, en la que ejerció también otros cargos como el de vicepresidente y jefe del Grupo Parlamentario de los Demócratas Europeos. Ha presidido, por supuesto, también numerosas delegaciones de su país en organismos internacionales, así como diversas comisiones de amistad parlamentaria y ha formado parte de la Comisión de Venecia del Consejo de Europa. Me gustaría subrayar también que antes de ocupar sus responsabilidades actuales como ministro de Asuntos Exteriores, fue ministro para Asuntos de la Unión Europea y negociador principal para el proceso de adhesión de Turquía. Por ello, podemos, sin duda, considerarle como un verdadero especialista en temas europeos y de ahí se deriva que su intervención ocupará un papel destacado su visión sobre la perspectiva europea de su país. Yo no les voy a cansar más porque a lo que ustedes han venido aquí es a oír al ministro turco y ahora es su turno. Bienvenido una vez más y nos veremos con mucho gusto después. Gracias.
Good morning. His Excellency, Minister Dastis, President of the Royal Alcana Institute, Mr. Lamado Espinazo. Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be in Madrid once again, and I am privileged to address such a distinguished audience today. Thank you very much for coming. And I would like to thank my colleague, Minister Dastis, and dear friend Alfonso for the warm hospitality that I have been enjoying since I arrived. Later on, we will have our bilateral talks at the lunch. And I also thank Mr. Lamado Espinazo, the president of the Royal Elkanah Institute, for organizing this conference. In a sense, Juan Sebastian Elcano was among the first globalists. He sailed around the world. My job also takes me around the world. And Minister Alfonso also already started enjoying traveling now in Europe, eventually all around the world. And just last week, I was on a tour of 4 Spanish-speaking countries across the Atlantic: Argentina, Paraguay, Dominican Republic, and Mexico. Visiting Spain after Latin America seemed like a natural next step. In my visit to different countries all over the world, my hosts almost always tell me about the importance of the UN Alliance of the Civilizations. This is the joint initiative of Spain and Turkey. As you all know, this forum was started in 2005 by our current president, His Excellency Erdogan, and then Prime Minister of Spain, Mr. Zapatero. It was a wise step to counter increasing extremism and intolerance, not only in our continent, but even beyond. It was a visionary and bold move to promote understanding across different cultures and communities. As time passed by, the importance of this initiative became more obvious. Today, our whole continent is shaken by xenophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and Christianophobia, or any kind of phobia. And this is what my dear friend, I have to recognize here, the current president of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Pedro Agramunt, is trying to promote at the Council of Europe and even beyond, in wider Europe, I mean. And we see similar tendencies across the Atlantic and in the Middle East. Unfortunately, extremism finds an ally in the populist politicians, and the populist political parties are gaining more and more support in the national parliaments, as well as in the European Parliament and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, and all over the world. Against this challenge, our task is very clear. We must defend our values stronger than ever. We must say what we have achieved over the centuries. Otherwise, we will all lose. This is exactly what we as Turkey and Spain aimed at when we founded the Alliance of the Civilizations. The forum is a key example of what Turkey and Spain can achieve when we work together. I am very happy to note that today the cooperation between our nations extends over a wide range of issues. As two NATO allies, we fight together against terrorism. And as two prominent members of the international arena, we support multinational platforms, and we are in favor of a UN Security Council that is more democratic, more representative, more efficient, and more politically relevant. As two merchant nations, we defend free and fair trade. And as two of the most popular touristic destinations, we support the free movement of the people, not free movement of the terrorists and foreign terrorist fighters, but free movement of the ordinary citizens. And finally, as two Mediterranean nations, we enjoy, of course, good food and football. And I know in Spain we have also some football players. And I will really like to talk about good olive oil and Arda's recent performance for Barcelona, but I will leave it to the question and answer sessions and also to the lunch with my dear friend Alfonso. I first need to cover the essential topics, which of course includes Turkey's EU membership. I can summarize this issue in just one sentence. EU membership is a strategic choice for Turkey, not just a political decision. Turkey is historically part of the European family in social and political and economic terms. We are deeply interconnected in areas such as security, foreign policy, and energy. And Turkey is a member of all the major European institutions and founding members of some of them, including the Council of Europe. And we are even contributing to the values and defending the values of many different European and international organizations. And I appreciate the role of Pedro Agramunt. And also I have to recognize Jordi Çukla, who is leading the liberal group at the Parliamentary Assembly, the Council of Europe, on behalf of Spain in the Council of Europe. So why is Turkey's accession process at a stalemate? This is the typical question I am asked, even in Latin America, when I go to Southeast Asia or Middle East, wherever I go, this is the typical question I am put. I have to be very frank, it is just because the EU itself turned anti-enlargement. After the elections at the European Union, for the EU institutions and the European Parliament, EU decided that there will be no enlargement for the next 5 years. And my answer was very simple. I put one question to my colleagues at the European Union. So can you guarantee that those many countries, candidate countries like in Western Balkans, will be waiting for you for another 5 years? So what kind of soft power do you have? And enlargement is one of the most effective soft power of the European Union. So how will you maintain your leverage or influence if you lose your soft powers? EU doesn't have any hard power anyway. EU just have access to the NATO and the other security organizations, but EU doesn't have any hard power. So it is because of this, unfortunately, these policies, now Turkey is also having some problems in our negotiations with the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be very honest. Some of the EU leaders, unfortunately today, prefer short-term gains to long-term strategies. The EU was a successful project because of the founding fathers were visionary and took bold steps when they were founding the European Union. And the EU was able to integrate Greece, Spain, Portugal, and the Eastern European countries after the fall of Berlin Wall. And Council of Europe had helped them first, and they became full member of the Council of Europe. And then many of them eventually became the member of the European Union. And this process helped those new democracies to rebuild their democratic institutions. So you shouldn't lose this soft power today. So EU was including all these new democracies in the past, but the EU doesn't have the same understanding today. This is how EU became a global power in the past. But today we are faced with some leaders who prefer isolation and discrimination. They reject the common values of the Europe and European Union. They want to build walls to keep people outside of the circle. And they want to build barriers to reject different cultures and the religions. And they want to build fences to exclude different ideas and identities, unfortunately. And this is not the Europe as we know it, or as we prefer it. This attitude will make the Europe a sick continent of the world. I'm not exaggerating. So we do not want to see a Europe where a Muslim or a Jew or a Buddhist or a Hindu walks, or anybody walks in fear in the European continent. So we want an inclusive Europe that inspires hope, optimism, and harmony. So the European leaders also need to see third countries as equals. This is very important. This is what Turkey also wants to be as treated. And in this day and age, no one wants to hear lecturing. You cannot impose unilateral policies without any respect for differences. If the EU wants to be a global player again, it must restore its original settings. These are inclusivity and respect for differences. When I say that no such countries like in our region don't want to see unilateral lecturing, it doesn't mean that we don't share the values. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't meet the standards. It doesn't mean that we should meet the opening and closing benchmarks of any chapters. What I mean is that we can have differences in terms of standards or in terms of economic development. Within EU countries, can you say that all of them are equal? I can give you some name of some countries, but I don't want. They are far behind the others in terms of democratic standards. In one country, there are more than 1 million Turks living, and they are not allowed to campaign in Turkish during the elections. But in Turkey, Kurds and the others can campaign in their mother tongue or in their dialect. But in these European Union countries, in another EU member state, despite the judgment of the European Court of Human Rights, they cannot use their Turkish names. Then this country is full member of the European Union and taking the advantage of the economic welfare of the European Union. So can we treat this country as a second-class country? No. Yes, we can remind its commitments, this country's or that country's commitments, also Turkey's commitments. But Turkey doesn't deserve to be treated as second-class country. Russia doesn't deserve to be treated as a second-class country either. It doesn't mean that Russia doesn't have any problem. But the way that we are treating the countries outside of the circle is not fair, and it doesn't bear any fruit. You cannot get result from those countries. And I have to be also very clear here that the many policies, unfortunately, has failed. And that's why Ukraine is suffering a lot. Nothing can justify what Russia does. We never recognize the illegal annexation of Crimea, and we will not. But why Ukraine had to choose between Russia and European Union? Such countries like Turkey and Ukraine and the others, Georgia, doesn't have to choose. We have to balance our foreign policy between our eastern and northern neighbors and the West, European Union and Europe, European countries. We have no other alternatives. Now we are normalizing our relations with Russia, and we are questioned. Why? But before the shooting down of the Russian aircraft, we had perfect relations, even better relations with Russia, nobody questioned. And while we have having this problem with Russia after the incident, all my colleagues from NATO allies advising me, sincerely, friendly, to normalize the relations with Russia, because we don't need another tension in our region. We have already enough. But since we normalize the relations, the same colleagues are questioning why we are doing this. Sometimes I have some difficulties to understand, but nevertheless, if there is any specific question, I can elaborate more on this issue. So you can ask me, Mr. Minister, you have been criticizing European Union and the EU policies. Yes, I can add more. I can add more, that many policies of the European Union has failed. Can you talk about the EU's foreign policy? No. Neighborhood policy failed. Eastern policy failed. Economy and financial policies, migration policy, integration policy, UK is leaving. So you can say, why still you want to be a full member of the European Union? Yes, we have common challenges. But Europe still presents a lot of opportunities as well. We can overcome our common challenges with the collective and with the common efforts. And despite all this problem, Europe is still the most democratic continent. European Union and the Council of Europe are the most two democratic institutions. And Europe is still the most prosperous, most stable, most secure continent. So we have to review our policies, how to actually make this continent more developed, more secure, and more democratic, and more inclusive. This is the nature of the European Union. That's why I have been raising all these issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, Turkey wants to be a member of the European Union, but we are not limiting ourselves to rainy Brussels. And Alfonso, my dear friend, served so many years as your ambassador in Brussels, so he knows how rainy Brussels is. We follow a multilateral diplomacy that is complementary to our relations with the European Union, not alternative. No other foreign policy of Turkey is an alternative to our EU membership. I have to underline here. As I said at the beginning, I have just completed to visit to Latin America. Then we hosted President of Ethiopia on Monday, and Prime Minister of Libya, and Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia yesterday. Tonight I will be flying to Ukraine, and this will be followed by President Erdogan's visit to Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. During the weekend, we will host the newly elected UN Secretary General Guterres. And next week, I will be in Bonn for the G20 ministerial. Then we will go to Munich Security Council. So you can see through my visits and the guests that we have been hosting how multidimensional and proactive Turkish foreign policy is. And Africa has a special place in our foreign policy. 2 weeks ago, I accompanied President Erdogan on his visit to Tanzania, Mozambique, and Madagascar. And we have currently 39 embassies in African continent. 12 years ago, we had only 12 embassies in African continent, not 39. And soon we will open the 40th embassy in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, not just because it is a Spanish-speaking country, but Equatorial Guinea is an important country in Western Africa. And we follow the motto of African solutions for African problems. And our support for Africa is based on a combination of humanitarian and development assistance elements. Africa was also in our G20 priorities during our chairmanship under the goal of establishing closer dialogue with low-income developing countries. Capacity building, security, social services, and infrastructure all go together. And Somalia is a good example of this understanding of Turkey. Turkey is the leading donor in Somalia, and our development efforts in this country are in line with the needs of the country. When we support the development project, we never insist. We rather ask the authorities, central or local authorities, to submit the project because they know the needs of their people much better than us. And on the other hand, we do not ignore our near neighborhood. And we are not living in another easy neighborhood, as you mentioned. And we have established high-level strategic and cooperation councils with different countries in our wider region to upgrade our bilateral relations to a strategic level with these countries. And Saudi Arabia was the last one, and that's why we had this strategic council coordinating meeting yesterday in Ankara. And we have also started a series of regional initiatives. These include the trilateral mechanism with Afghanistan and Pakistan, Azerbaijan and Iran, Georgia and Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan, and both Turkey, Bosnia and Serbia, Turkey, Bosnia and Croatia. Why we have been giving utmost importance to these trilateral mechanisms. In the areas in Balkans, on Caucasus, even beyond Afghanistan and Pakistan, there are serious problems. The tension is there, terrorism is there, and so many frozen conflicts. Nagorno-Karabakh, Transnistria, South Ossetia, Abkhazia, now Crimea, and Cyprus. There are so many frozen conflicts also posing a risk and threat to our regions. So confidence-building measures are more important than ever in our region. Therefore, we help a lot to maintain the stability in the Western Balkans and in Caucasus and beyond. That's why we have created all these trilateral mechanisms with the countries that I mentioned. So this is what we call implementing a foreign policy that is enterprising. This is one of the principal policies of our ministry. And enterprising is the sense of taking initiative to resolve problems and to fortify friendship. It is free of dogmas. It is based on a positive agenda to make the world a better place. We also apply this strategy to the armed conflicts around us. The best example is Syria. We have long argued that there can be no military solutions in Syria. The best solution is the political solution. And we have launched concrete initiatives to promote a peaceful solution in Syria and in Iraq. First, we have cleared Daesh from across our borders. Our soldiers are still fighting Daesh in and around El-Bab. El-Bab is one of the most critical cities for Daesh, terrorist organization Daesh. El-Bab and Raqqa in Syria and Mosul in Iraq are the most critical cities for Daesh. Then we struck a deal with Russia, and eventually Iran was also included in it. And this cleared the way for evacuation of 45,000 Syrians from Aleppo. It was not easy to evacuate 45,000 people from Aleppo. but we did it. We succeeded. And I couldn't sleep for maybe 4 or 5 days. Only 2 hours sleep I had. In 3 days, I had to speak with Foreign Minister of Iran, Javad Zarif, 20 times in 3 days. But we had to do it, and we saved the lives of those 45,000 people. And we took concrete steps for a ceasefire in wider Syria. The achievements in Aleppo encourage us to extend the ceasefire in other areas of conflicts in Syria, and despite all the some violations, and I just discussed the violations in Syria with Sergei Lavrov before I came into this room, and despite some violations, the ceasefire is there. And we are still building on this political process. Our aim is to start Geneva talks within this month. And so the UN Security Council resolutions and the Geneva communique are the basis for the political talks and political solution in Syria. And our efforts to promote a political solution in Syria will continue as Turkey. Another recent example of our enterprising policy is the normalization of our relations with Russia and Israel. I just mentioned how we normalize the relations briefly before. With Russia, we talk about our differences, and I also mentioned all those differences, and relaunch our established dialogue mechanisms. Today, while we are trying to bring our bilateral relations to its previous level, we cooperate on regional issues with Russia. On the other hand, as I mentioned, we maintain our principal policies on Ukraine, Crimea, Black Sea, and we fully support the territorial integrity of Georgia and Ukraine. And we follow the same constructive policy vis-à-vis Israel. Israel met our expectations, very simple, and we restored our relations. Ambassadors were reappointed mutually recently. And our tourism minister was in Tel Aviv, in Israel and Palestine in last 2 days. And we have the same positive approach with the Cyprus talks. Now there is an ongoing Cyprus talks, and Turkey is fully supporting this process. And lately, Greece also became visible in its support. And UK is also a guarantor country. We had the ministerial talks in Geneva in December. And now the two sides continue negotiating the open issues in first 4 chapters. I hope they will close them and we can get together as foreign ministers, and eventually we can bring the leaders for a final conference under the umbrella of United Nations and the Secretary General Guterres, and we are hoping to make some achievements, such settlement in Cyprus. I hope the Greek side will also show its will, because the Turkish Cypriots, I have to say, they supported the Annan Plan in 2004, and since the negotiations resumed, they have been clearly showing their will and positive attitudes for a fair settlement and lasting and durable settlement in Cyprus. We need such positive development, particularly in our region and Eastern Mediterranean, and there are a lot of opportunities when we have the settlement. So I hope this valuable opportunity will not miss this time. Unfortunately, in 2004, we missed it. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, one thing is clear. If we want to build peace in our region, we need to have dialogue and we need to focus areas of cooperation. The world is polarized. We have a responsibility to bridge the differences, and we must focus on areas of collaboration instead of differences. And cooperation on energy is one of them. I believe we can transform the Mediterranean into a sea of peace by using its hydrocarbon resources. And we can also make better use of cultural tools to deal with the complex problems of our age. For instance, misperceptions are tackled better at an early age. Therefore, we should promote more youth exchange, not only between Spain and Turkey, but between Europe and other areas like Middle East, Central Asia, and Far East, and also Latin America. And regional cooperation platforms such as the Union for Mediterranean can play a constructive role in this regard. Finally, we must never forget the humanitarian dimension. There are millions of women, children, and elderly people who suffer due to the political conflicts, natural disasters, and poverty. Even in Europe right now, I can say, it is our responsibility to extend our helping hand to these vulnerable people. I have one motto, I use this. If you don't go and help the people, vulnerable people, where they live, eventually they will come to you. If you go and defeat where the terrorist organizations are or terrorists are, eventually they will come to you and they will hit you. So we never forget that wherever the problem is, and we cannot say that it is far away from me and it will never come to me. So this is why we are hosting more than 3 million refugees, which makes us the #1 refugee hosting country in the world. But our humanitarian assistance is not limited to the support that we give to the vulnerable people living in Turkey. And what we spend from the official budget is $15 billion. If you add what the municipalities and the NGOs spend, you can double this amount. And can you imagine how much we get from entire international community? It is only $522 million. From all the organizations and 193 countries, only $522 million. And EU pledged $3 billion for 3 billion euros for 2016, and EU was able to transfer only 700 million euros to these vulnerable people. Maybe EU wants to transfer more, but EU became a bureaucratic machine. So with these standards and the procedures, it will take maybe another 5 years to give the remaining $3 billion, and the EU pledged additional $3 billion by the end of 2018. With this understanding, it will never happen. Nevertheless, I have to support these people because they had to flee from the war and terrorist organizations in Syria and in Iraq. And 3 million people, 2.8 million of them are Syrians, and around 200,000 of them are Iraqis. And we also built camps in northern Iraq, and also other side of the border in Syria. And many IDPs living in these camps, and we do deliver our daily humanitarian assistance to those people living in this, in these camps. So we are Turkey became the second largest donor country in 2015 after the United Nations, thanks to our humanitarian assistance in all these continents and different parts of the world that I mentioned. And we are the most generous humanitarian actor in terms of its GDP allocated for the humanitarian assistance in the world. And I'm proud to say this, underline this. In 2015, we provided $3.9 billion official development aid in total outside of Turkey. And we hosted the first UN World Humanitarian Summit last year in Turkey in May, and Spain also participated, and I'm very grateful. And this is the humanitarian dimension of our foreign policy. And this pillar strengthens our enterprise in diplomacy and help us make positive change in all over the world. And we believe this is what diplomacy is for, to make positive change in people's life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to see that Turkey and Spain are on the same page in using foreign policy to promote peace, stability, and prosperity. Mr. President, you also mentioned that I should speak about a little bit what's going on in Turkey. If there is any question, I will be very happy to answer. Do you have any question there?
We have, certainly.
Okay, then I will leave that issue to answer your questions. Sorry I spoke a little bit longer than what I planned. I usually prefer to give more time for the question and answer sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Minister. Certainly, we have plenty of questions about inside, outside, borders. We have plenty, all kinds of questions. Let's start with one very general, which deals with the orientation of Turkish foreign policy. No? Has Turkey really developed a neo-Ottoman foreign policy under their President Erdogan, as some analysts have claimed, to the point of reclaiming territories of other nations and moving beyond the Treaty of Lausanne? I think that's an interesting one that deals with the general orientation of Turkish foreign policy. Can we start with this one?
Yes, sure. Well, is it working?
I'm afraid it's
Yeah.
working. It is. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this question and giving me the opportunity to clarify this. And, you know, Turkey always meets its commitments. And Turkey respects and implements the agreements that Turkey has signed. But in the internal politics, you can perfectly criticize the agreement that Turkey signed in the past. Now, 22 years ago, to end the war in Bosnia, Dayton Agreement was signed, right? So can anybody tell me that that agreement was the perfect one? Yes, to end the war, we needed to do something urgently. But there is a deadlock in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This country is not functioning. Pedro Agramun is doing his best to convince the Bosniaks, all sides, Croats, Serbs, and Bosniaks, to reform the constitution. But they are not able to do that. So you can criticize the previous governments for the agreements that they signed in the past here, also in Spain. It doesn't mean that we have ambitions. No other country is supporting the territorial integrity and unity of Syria and Iraq more than Turkey. That is what we have been emphasizing. If you see the joint statement of Turkey, Russia, and Iran in Moscow, and also the joint statement after the Astana talks, you can see that. And Turkey is fully respecting the territorial integrity of all the neighboring countries. Yes, we have some issues with Greece on Aegean, and we have different political and legal positions on some islands and territorial water. But these are the areas, these are the issues that we have been talking with Greeks within one format, exploratory talks. Why? Not to accelerate the tension, but rather to calm down and to discuss all these difficult issues through the diplomatic channels. And we have very good relations with Greece. So now we are fighting Daesh in the other side of the border around Elbab, but it doesn't mean that we have some ambitions in the territory of Syria. No, not at all. That is what we have been underlining. You can criticize the Lausanne Agreement, that agreement, this agreement that we signed in the past. Some others can defend this. This is the freedom of expression, but it doesn't mean that we have ambitions in the territory of other countries, particularly neighbors. Not at all.
Thank you, thank you.
And neo-Ottomanism doesn't mean that again we will come to the walls, the borders of Vienna with our troops. It means that we want to be full member of the European Union, as we are full member of the Council of Europe. It means that we can contribute, and as we have contributing to the economy and the social life and the culture of the European continent. So it means that we can reach other continents through the opening up policies, like as I explained in Africa. And our opening up Africa policy has turned to a partnership policy. And we are bearing fruits through our opening up Latin American policy. And 6 years ago, we had only 6 embassies in that region. Now we have 13 embassies in Latin America. We are increasing the trade, so we are opening more embassies. We have 235 missions in all over the world, and I think we are ranking 6th in the world. With the new ones that we are going to open, we will be 5th in the world. So this is what we understand from this policy.
I am sure your interpretation of neo-Ottomanism is going to reassure a lot of people. Thank you. A couple of questions about the European Union. We are moving from the general to the more concrete for the European Union. One of them says, would be interesting for Turkey the possibility of a transitional period in the EU integration, incorporating only the European geographical part of Turkey to the European Union. The other one says...
what does it mean?
Well, that's what it means.
Maybe
I understand
maybe
that.
The question could be put in Japanese, if I can understand.
Okay, the other one is more concrete. Some people in Europe argue that given that Turkey's membership in the European Union seems increasingly unlikely, it would be best if both parties acknowledge this by cancelling accession negotiation. May this not have the advantage of allowing us to develop a more realistic European Union-Turkish relationship?
Well, thank you very much for putting those questions. You know, we signed an agreement with the European Union for the full membership. And we started negotiations in 2005. At the same day with Croatia. Croatia already became full member. And Montenegro started negotiations more than 2 years ago. And so far, they have been able to open more chapters than Turkey has opened in last 12 years. So we are very clear. We started the negotiations for the full membership. But if EU doesn't want to have us, they have to tell us, very frankly. They have to be honest with us. We still want to be full member. But if EU change its opinion, or if EU doesn't want to respect the agreement that we signed, European Union has to give a decision, not us. And they have to be honest with us. I know because of the internal politics, I know because of the populism is on rise in many European countries, and particularly at the eve of the campaigns, Turkey is a hot topic. Why? So just be honest with us. If you don't want us, tell me, so we can end it. But meanwhile, don't question me whether there is a shift in my foreign policy. When I have good relations with other countries like Russia or Central Asian countries or Middle East, typical question, is there any shift in Turkish foreign policy? We are concerned. Why are you concerned? For what reason? Aren't you seeking new opportunities and possibilities in other parts of the world, in Asia, in Latin America, I mean the EU countries, in Africa? So you are seeking for better cooperation in all these areas. Am I questioning you that whether you have a shift in your foreign policy or not? Why do we have to only one-dimensional foreign policy instead of multidimensional? If you see them as an alternative to each other, it's a problem. But if you see your foreign policy, multidimensional foreign policy, as complementary to each other, then it's very good. So here, European Union has to be very honest with us. This is what we don't see, and we are really fed up with the double standards. I can give you so many examples, but I don't want to depress you.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple of questions about Bashar al-Assad. Can you please explain your change of policy towards Bashar al-Assad? And the other one says, in the future of the Syrian conflict, it would be acceptable for Turkey a solution with Bashar al-Assad remaining as president?
You know, first, our position is not changed. Why? This regime killed more than 600,000 people, its own people. Did or has this regime used chemical weapons? Yes. Has they used barrel bombs, chlorine gas, and other type of weapons to kill 600,000 people? So accepting such a regime that use chemical weapons is a very dangerous decision, or change, or shift. So any leader or any regime can kill the people, use any chemical weapons, everything. So they continue ruling the country. So we can legitimize actually mass killing of other regimes if we change our position with regards to the Assad. So everybody asking whether Turkey has changed its position or not. But nobody cares about the opinion of the Syrian people. At the end, Syrian people should decide what kind of regime they want, they prefer, what kind of transition government they want. That's why we are trying to bring the regime and the representative of the opposition for genuine talks. They have to discuss between themselves what they want, what their political vision is for the future of Syria. When there is a democratic system, so it is up to the Syrian people to elect its own leaders, not me. But I am realistic, and I see the situation on the ground, and I don't think anybody can convince the opposition that have been fighting this brutal regime for last 6 years, more than 6 years. This is more important. I mean, my position is very clear, and it's not changed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 3 more questions about foreign policy, Turkey's foreign policy, before moving to the internal situation. We have plenty of questions about the internal situation in Turkey. One is about Cyprus. In your view, why did the recent talks in Geneva over Cyprus fail? What is the main obstacle? That's one question, Cyprus. The other one is about Libya. What's the role of Turkey? What role Turkey can play in Libya, and what do you think the international community and other actors can do? And finally, another question about an issue you raised before, which is the alliance of civilizations, an initiative launched by Spain and Turkey. The last measures taken by President Trump, I'm translating, give the feeling that he is moving towards a class of civilization, not an alliance. Turkey and Spain, what can we do? How do you see Trump's attitude towards this idea of an alliance of civilization?
Thank you very much. You know, we needed to set up a date for the final conference in Cyprus. Otherwise, we cannot continue with open-ended understanding, and they cannot continue discussing Cyprus settlement forever. And there will be elections in South. At the eve of the elections, you cannot get any result, because the politicians in Cyprus, in South Cyprus, and in Greece are not as comfortable as we are in Turkey and in northern Cyprus, just because of the public opinion. I cannot criticize my colleagues in those both sides. I mean, so therefore we set up a date for the final conference, but we prefer to have the ministerial one first. Actually, my prime minister was ready to go, but Greek prime minister was not ready to come to Geneva. And that's why Prime Minister May also didn't come. And at that conference, we saw that there are serious differences on our positions with regards to the security and guarantees, and also map and other issues. Plus, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, there are still open issues in first 5 chapters that 2 sides must negotiate, not us as guarantors, and close. So we decided to finish at first day, and then our experts, experts of 5 sides, should continue discussing the position of each countries or each side on all these sensitive issues. And meanwhile, we decided that 2 sides should continue negotiating all these open issues. In Geneva or in Montpellier, they didn't close all of them. Now on the island, they continue negotiating all these open issues. And Espen Aida was in Ankara. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Yesterday. And now we are planning to convene the ministerial meeting once again. And we will ask 2 sides to close all these open issues as soon as possible. So it was not a kind of failure, but we were not expecting to reach a settlement at that meeting. But since there are still differences, it is better our experts continue, and also 2 sides should continue negotiating all these open issues. So we are still hopeful. And with regards to Libya is having a lot of problems. And yesterday, the Prime Minister of the de facto administration was, Mr. Sarraj was in Ankara. He was received by Prime Minister Yildirim and also President Erdogan. And we have been giving full support to Syria and the UN resolutions on Libya and UN resolutions on Libya. And we just reopened our embassy. Only 2 countries reopened the embassies, Italy and Turkey. Now we are planning to restart the Turkish Airlines flights to Tripoli. And 2 Turkish companies are building energy powers. This country needs energy, particularly electricity. They are very vulnerable. They have terrorism problem. We, in the summit, Warsaw summit, and also during the ministerial council, NATO ministerial meetings in Brussels and elsewhere, we decided that NATO should train the forces of the government, the state, in their fight against Daesh. And we also decided that NATO should help Iraqi forces to train and equip Iraqi forces in their fight against Daesh. So, and I cannot say all the neighboring countries are playing constructive role in Libya. And Haftar is another actor. He is not playing very positive role, unfortunately. And we need to bring them all together. There are some groups, different groups, that has not joined the process. And I propose to set up a working groups of many countries in the region to convince the others to join the process. Unless we can establish an inclusive system in Libya, it will be difficult to bring stability and the peace in Libya. We also did our best to bring the different groups fighting particularly in Tripoli, and General Serra from Italy on behalf of UN, of course, to end the fight in Tripoli so other countries can also open the embassies. So Libya needs our support in any means. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Alliance of the Civilizations, as I said, we need the Alliance of the Civilizations and the messages of Alliance of the Civilizations, this initiative, tolerance, coexistence, more than ever, due to the problem that we are facing, due to the rise of those xenophobia, Islamophobia, Christianophobia, anti-Semitism, and discrimination in Europe and beyond. We don't need another clash of civilizations. It will be disaster for everybody, for this continent, for transatlantic, and for the entire world.
Thank you. Thank you. We still have few questions about foreign policy, about NATO, refugee crisis, and Kurdish independence, but I don't want to postpone any longer the many, many questions about the internal situation in Turkey. So let me turn to this bunch of questions, and I'm going to read it in Spanish because they are written in Spanish. I'm going to read all of them. ha criticado la falta de democracia en algunos países de la Unión Europea. Is it working, Minister? Is it working?
Yeah.
Ha criticado la falta de democracia en algunos países de la Unión Europea, pero no ha hecho ninguna autocrítica. Con la destitución de miles de jueces, maestros, periodistas en Turquía y el cambio constitucional que preparan, ¿cree que Ankara es creíble como democracia? Otra de las preguntas. Reporteros Sin Fronteras denunció ayer que Turquía es la principal cárcel del mundo para periodistas. La libertad de prensa es uno de los requisitos para entrar en la Unión Europea. ¿Qué medidas a tomar al respecto? Otro, también sobre el informe anual de Reporteros Sin Fronteras, que se pregunta qué hace el gobierno turco para garantizar la libertad de prensa. Otro, también, que al hilo de esta cuestión, de este informe, se pregunta si se dan las condiciones para el referéndum de abril. ¿Se puede hacer campaña por el no sin acabar en la cárcel? Y una última, y esta está en inglés. How can you justify that more than 100,000 Turkish citizens have been deprived of civil rights, labor passports, and even personal freedom after July coup? Are all of them Gulenists?
Thank you so much for the questions. First of all, I didn't criticize any country with regards to the democratic standards in Europe. What I was trying to say, even in the European Union, with regards to the democratic standards, there are differences between the member states. Obviously, there are differences between EU member states and Turkey and also other countries. What I emphasize is it doesn't mean that we should treat each other as first class or second class country, or we see each other as boss and second class country. I am against this kind of understanding. In 15 years, Turkey has reformed the country. It's the same leader, President Erdogan, and it's the same government. And this reform process has been defined as the silent revolution in Turkey. I mean, in Europe, in the Council of Europe, and also in the European Union. You cannot give me one simple example of the legislation that is a step back in Turkey. 15 years ago, any journalists were not able to even question any government. And I can give you the name of the legislation, number of the legislation to enhance the freedom of expression, freedom of media in Turkey. And there are so many news channels and media outlets strongly criticizing President Erdogan and us, even now. Today, Hürriyet, CNN Türk, Korkusuz, and Sözcü, and Cumhuriyet, and many others are supposed to be in democratic countries. And it's freedom of media, they should. Of course, when it is beyond the criticism, any individuals can go to the court, as President Erdogan did, but after the attempted coup, he gave up all these legal procedures. I mean, he applied to the courts against some journalists or politicians, he gave up. As a sign of reconciliation in the country. But in your country, can any journalist, or if any journalist clearly supports any terrorist organization, can you tolerate that? So being a journalist give you any immunity to support terrorist organizations or kill anybody or rob a bank? This is a very clear question, no exaggeration. You can go and log into the website of the Minister of Justice. You can see what is the accusation against each journalist in Turkey, or so-called journalists. And you are giving the name of these journalists who are supporting who are actively involved in the coup d'etat, attempted coup, failed coup in Turkey on 15th of July. So can any journalist in your country or in European countries support the coup or actively involved in coup? Or what happens if they? I give the names of journalists in Greece, in the United States, and in UK, and the media outlets that were closed because of the illegal activities. And these journalists belong to this FETÖ terrorist organization, actively involved in fabricating false evidences against the third persons and other journalists, and they were detained and they were put in prison, including the Oda TV journalists. So why the image of Turkey has damaged in the last 4 or 5 years, not only after the attempted coup? Because this FETÖ organization and its judges and its police, through different cases, they put the military personnel in prison, they put so many journalists in prison, but only government was accused. Now those journalists are clearly telling everybody that it was this FETÖ terrorist organization who put them in prison. Still, everybody is criticizing Erdogan and my government. Why? Because of the anti-Erdogan, anti-Turkey, and Islamophobic tendencies in Europe. Very clear. So, you are talking about the judges. How can I trust these judges if their loyalty is to this sick man living in Pennsylvania, not to our constitution and our laws in Turkey? We are asked how we knew the names of the judges, and we dismissed them immediately after the attempted coup. Let me tell you why. Because a failed coup was not their first attempt. It was 2002 when they had their first attempt. While we have this solution process with pro-Kurdish party and to end the PKK terrorism, they tapped and leaked all Oslo talks, and they initiated a lawsuit against the Undersecretary of the Intelligence and also then Prime Minister Erdogan. And in 2013, they used their police and the judges to overthrow the democratically elected Turkish government, and they failed. And finally, they had the attempted coup to overthrow this democratically elected president and the government in Turkey. So how can you talk about the independence of the judiciary or independence within the judiciary with those judges and prosecutors that their loyalty is with this sick man, Fethullah Gülen, living in Pennsylvania? In my ministry, I had to dismiss 20% of my career diplomats. Why? Because they entered my ministry. We found out that through the stolen question and answers, they even changed the exam type from essay type to multiple choice type, so the questions and answers can be given to these people belongs to this organization. So how can I trust them? Some of them convinced that they share the secret documents of my ministry with FETÖ people in different countries. I had to dismiss them. I had no other choice. But I have been very careful. I have been examining. I have a commission examining every single evidence that we got. Overall, 1.5% of the civil servants in Turkey dismissed. But I have to do that. A person, they have been infiltrated to military for 40 years. Police, another 30 years. In my ministry, in last 7-8 years, 500 only, maybe even more. So he is a military person, and I gave him a tank, jet fighters, fighter jets, and helicopters. What did they do on that night? They ran the tanks over these people. I lost 248 people. And 2,193 wounded seriously. They lost many of them lost their organs seriously. So who is going to defend the rights of these people? And a person whose loyalty is to this sick man turn the tanks towards the people. And they bomb the Turkish parliament with the jets. So any people that belongs to this organization can do anything, because they don't care about anything, but only this person. And he is defined, they believe that he is the Imam of universe, not only Imam of Turkey. The aim was to bring him, after overthrowing the democratically elected government and president, to Turkey as Khomeini went back Iran. And he believes that he is the Imam of universe, not Imam of Turkey, not Imam of Spain or Europe or the world, but Imam of the stars and everything. He believes that he is Messiah. And those people belonging to this organization, and their loyalty is to this guy, this sick man, terrorists can do anything. So how can I work with them? Tell me, give me one chance. But while we are taking measures, Council of Europe is our best partner. And we have also did our best to meet the recommendations of the Council of Europe, Secretary General and the President and the Assembly. So we had to bring the state of emergency to Turkey. France brought the state of emergency after one single terrorist attack, Paris attack. I'm not underestimating this attack. It was a terrible attack. But Turkey had maybe 10 or 15 similar attacks in Turkey, and we never considered to bring back the state of emergency. Why? Because it was my government to lift the state of emergency in southeastern part of Turkey immediately after we came to power. Because we know how bad it is. But after the attempted coup, we have no other choice. Our aim is to maintain the public order and to restore the damage that this failed coup made in Turkey, and also to bring the stability and also democracy. No other nation can take the streets like this as my citizen. I am proud of my people. They didn't use anything, not even one single stone or rock or stick, only with Turkish flag. They took the streets, they stood strongly against the tanks and this jets and helicopters and these so-called troops. Okay? And it means that Turkish nation believe in democracy. If they believe that Erdogan and my government are having a shift in democracy, they will also overthrow us without any hesitation. It's not that easy to manage the emotion of the people after such trauma, but we are doing our best. And despite all these problems, and our hope is that we are normalizing the Turkey, our economy is growing, and everything is under control, and we are maintaining very active foreign policy, very active in international platforms, as I try to mention. But now we are trying to bring the presidential system. What's wrong with that? So what do you mean that if anybody says no, can be or will be put in prison or not? I reject this question. Turkey is a democratic country. We have held, I don't know how many elections and referendum since 2002, and even before. All the elections are in Turkey before us and now are democratic. Fair, transparent, and democratic. This is not my assessment. This is the joint assessment of the Council of Europe, Parliamentary Assembly, and the OEC Parliamentary Assembly, and the European Parliament. It's not my assessment. Fair and democratic elections that we conduct in Turkey. And everybody is campaigning now. Some citizens or political parties are campaigning for no, we are campaigning for yes. But in Turkey, there is no problem to say no. But if any artist or anybody like Arda, he said yes in his campaign. He's a football player. You cannot imagine how much he has been humiliated just because he said yes. But in Turkey, you cannot give me any one single example that a person who said no has been criticized by us. It's democracy. So it will be a democratic referendum. And Council of Europe will observe it. So will OEC. And this is the system that if Turkish people prefers, of course, we will bring this system. If Turkish people, citizens, reject this package, we will not change. But I believe, personally, I have been defending presidential system for Turkey since I was in high school, not since I became foreign minister. I have my different arguments. The point is, it doesn't matter which system you have, presidential, semi-presidential, parliamentary system. Separation of the power, enhancing the separation of the power. Now, we are, with this package, there will be stronger parliament. Currently, all the legislation, draft legislations, come by the government to the parliament, not by the parliamentarians. There is no separation of the powers, unfortunately, between the parliament and between the government, unfortunately. So we are strengthening the system. So separation of the power, checks and balances, and strengthening the democracy is more important than the regime itself, whatever it is, parliamentary, presidential, or whatever you prefer. Democracy will prevail in Turkey, and we will do our best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. I don't want to abuse from your time. I don't know if...
What time do we have to be at the meeting?
Do we have 5 minutes?
I think, yes, we do.
Because we haven't covered one question we talked a little bit before entering here, which is the economy of Turkey. The economic situation. There are plenty of companies interested here and businessmen. So can you tell us a few ideas? What's the economic situation in Turkey right now, please?
All right. Thank you so much. And despite all these problems that we have been fighting different terrorist organizations at the same time, PKK and DHKPC and the other terrorist organization, Daesh, unfortunately, this FETÖ, who is the perpetrators of the failed coup, is coordinating those terrorist attacks in Turkey or against Turkey. They are sharing the intelligence. I will give you one information. You know, at the New Year Eve, one Daesh terrorist killed 39 people. And some of them were our guests from different countries. And this guy got assistance from FETÖ affiliates in the state institutions. So you are questioning me why I am dismissing these people. If I don't dismiss, they will help the terrorists. And this terrorist who killed the Russian ambassador, Karlov, in Ankara, also belongs to this FETÖ terrorist organization. So it's not an easy time that we have been passing through, my friends. Not easy. Criticizing Turkey from outside is very easy. And choosing the populistic policy is also very, very easy. You can get some support. But you have to come and understand what's happening in Turkey really. Despite all this problem, and there is a stability, strong government, strong leadership, and we have firm economic policies. We never give up the principles. And that's why our financial system, banking system, is one of the strongest one, not only in Europe, but in the world. And now I see even Iranian and many other countries or companies trying to buy bank in Turkey because our disciplined, our financial and banking system is very much disciplined. And we have been never populistic in our economic policies, even at the eve of the elections, that we have so many elections. Local elections, parliamentary elections, presidential elections, and referendums we had. So the growth rate is promising. So the average of the growth rate in 2016 is almost 4%. I have the figures for the first and second quarter. They are, each of them are 4.5%. So now we are promoting investment in Turkey, a lot of incentives, and the amount of the foreign direct investment has been increased in Turkey. And we have been undertaking so many projects, giant projects. We just built opened the new tunnels through the Bosphorus. And we are going to build the third one soon, and the third bridge. Now we have the railway projects, highway projects, infrastructure projects, and investment. I'm very happy to see that Spanish companies, they took the role in Marmara Rail and the other important projects in Turkey. And I see that our bilateral trade, the volume of our bilateral trade is also increasing comparing last year. And the amount of the foreign direct investment coming from Spain is also increasing. Not only from Spain, also from Japan, from China, from Gulf region, particularly from Gulf region. Despite all this problem, they see that Turkey is stable and promising. So when you look at the figures, we don't see any problem. We see rather development and very promising. I have to also be very clear here. Don't think that this Turkish foreign minister is very arrogant, only criticizing the others, never self-criticism. I never say that we are perfect. In Turkey also we don't say we are perfect. We have done a lot. It's not enough. We must do a lot more. We cannot stop here. So therefore, don't think that Turkish foreign minister is only criticizing the others. But I have to be very clear. You know this Fitch, Standard & Poor's, some companies giving the grade in Turkey, they lower. It's a purely political decision. Purely political. So don't, respect those evaluations of these companies that I mentioned. So, any other question, Mr. Chairman?
I think we have covered, Minister, about 100% of the issues we had to talk about. I'm very impressed by your courage. I think that has been extremely enlightening, all your explanations. We don't want to abuse more from your time, so thank you very much. We close the session. Un aplauso para el ministro. Levantamos la sesión. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Minister.